So, my mother-in-law, she wants me to change my baby's name to be something more traditional. Yeah, according to her, traditional is, well, a name that she picked out. Guys, I'm going to walk you through how terrible of a person she is and why I have to put up with her. Who would have thought that I would be on this platform writing about this? Well, the good thing is that this is a throwaway account, so it can't be traced back to me. I just want to get everyone's opinions and comments about my monster-in-law. Sorry, I meant to say mother-in-law, but I'm pretty sure some of you might be able to relate, especially if you have a crazy mom. Well, it's going to be a lengthy read, but definitely worth it. So let me give you some context, so that you're not completely confused and lost. I'm 30, female, and I've lived in the UK since I was a little girl. My parents are originally from Pakistan, but decided to move to the United Kingdom to give me a better life, which they did, and unfortunately, they've both passed in a car accident when I was 18 years of age. I was only a child, so I didn't have any siblings. Luckily, my parents believed in saving money, so I was able to pay for my college expenses and also buy a small apartment. I met my husband, Brandon, who was born and bred in Britain when I was 21. Well, we dated for a couple of years and then got married. Everything was perfect until I met his mom, Karen. Yeah, fitting. She's truly a force to be reckoned with, and it's always felt that she was never liking of me because of the way she treats my sister-in-law, Madison. She's always treated us differently, and I believe the reason is because Madison is purely British, while I'm Pakistani British. I've always been proud of my roots and culture. My parents raised me to love my culture and to embrace it. They always reminded us that even though we're no longer staying in Pakistan, we should never forget where we came from, and that Pakistan will always be our home. Hence why I proudly wear my sharas, and also my Pakistani attire. My husband's always loved that about me, and he's always loving of my culture, and has learned so much about it. His whole family has embraced me and my culture, and well, I guess you could say everybody except my mother-in-law. She's always made fun of my culture. She's always made inappropriate, stereotypical jokes about my culture, and she even does it in front of the other family members. At family functions, she's always having to make these remarks about my clothing, and she would tell family members that my style is old-fashioned and that I need to get on with the times. This one time she told me that she wanted us to go on a shopping spree, which I thought would be fun, only to find out that she wanted to buy me clothing that she thought would be more suitable for me. The outfits that she chose were so ugly. They were horrible. They were tight and revealing and definitely weren't for me. Well, I told her that I wasn't comfortable with the clothing that she had and that she chose for me, but she ignored me and bought them anyways. I've never worn any of the outfits, and my mother-in-law loves bringing it up at every family function to the family. She would tell them she took me out on a shopping spree, bought me clothing, yet she's never seen me wear any of the outfits that she got me. She would tell them that I was ungrateful and very unappreciative, which was not the case, but she made it seem like it was. So my relationship with my mother-in-law has always been so weird. I'm saying this, also, because of something that took place when it was revealed that I was pregnant. My mother-in-law called me and asked about the pregnancy. But then she asked me what I thought about the name. So I told her that I was thinking of a Pakistani name to honor the memory of my parents, but she got so infuriated that she yelled at me and threatened that if I did not give my baby an English name, she would make sure that I became an outcast of the family. They'd actually caused a drift between us and my mother-in-law. Coming back, well, to the reason I'm writing this, because I'm 6 months pregnant with a baby girl. The pregnancy so far has been treating me really well. Luckily, I had no form of morning sickness or nausea. My husband's family was very excited when we told them, and the only person who was not happy was obviously my mother-in-law. She has not been supportive of my pregnancy, even though this will be her first grandchild. Recently, I received a call from my mother-in-law. I was shocked to see her name flash on my phone, and I was so sure that she had called me by mistake. But my phone rang again, and I answered, and my mother-in-law greeted me with so much joy, and I greeted her back. She then asked me about the baby and how was the pregnancy treating me. This took me aback because she had never asked me such. I told her that the baby was doing great and that I had an appointment coming up. She then proceeded to ask me if she could come along. I kept quiet for a moment because I thought that this was probably just a joke. She noticed my silence and told me that she would explain everything over lunch after my appointment. I could not believe that this was my mother-in-law talking. I told her that I would think about it and I'd let her know. She told me that she would patiently be waiting for my response and hung up after telling me to have a great day. I was shocked by the whole conversation. Once my husband got home from work, I told him about the phone call. He was surprised that my mother-in-law had reached out, but he told me that I should let her come to the appointment. He told me that maybe this was her way of finally accepting the baby and just wanting to extend the olive branch. I shrugged my shoulders and told him that I would invite her to my upcoming appointment. After talking to my husband, I called my best friend Liana, who was also Pakistani. She was totally against the idea, and I asked why she was being so negative. She then proceeded to remind me that my mother-in-law actually threatened to treat me and the baby like outcast if me and my husband gave the baby a Pakistani name instead of a British one. Hence, I was shocked when I received my mother-in-law's call. I told Liliana that this was going to be my daughter's grandmother whether I liked it or not. I reminded her, unfortunately, my daughter was only going to have one grandmother, which was her. Liliana then softened up a bit once I mentioned this and apologized for being negative. However, she warned me to be careful around my mother-in-law and to not be too trusting or naive. I understood why she was saying this. Liana has never been a fan of my mother-in-law ever since she found out that she was mistreating me and that she would mock our culture. But I'd promised my husband that I would give his mother a chance to redeem herself and fix her wrongdoings. I was just hoping that I would not be disappointed. Am I the a-hole for giving my mother-in-law another chance? Update number 1. It was the day of my appointment, and my mother-in-law had said that she would meet me at the doctor's office. I genuinely thought that she would not show up, but I was shocked to find her already at the reception, right there waiting for me. Well, I greeted her, and she greeted me back. She even hugged me and told me that I looked beautiful, which completely caught me off guard. I gave her a little smile and thanked her for the compliment. We did not wait for very long, and as soon as we were at the doctor's office, my mother-in-law was asking a lot of questions, but my doctor did not mind answering them. I was actually happy to see her be so interested. After the questions and answering sessions, my doctor checked the baby's heartbeat and also performed a sonogram, which my mother-in-law was so excited to see. It honestly was a beautiful moment, and it warmed my heart. After all of that, my doctor took some blood work so that she could run some testing, but she told me that everything looked perfect and that my baby was indeed growing and looked very, very healthy. And after all the blood work, my mother-in-law offered to take me out for lunch. We went to a nearby restaurant, and we took our seats, and the waiter took our order. At first, things were quiet and awkward, but then my mother-in-law took a deep breath and told me that she was sincerely sorry. Well, I was surprised because my mother-in-law was not the type of person to apologize or see her wrongdoings. I asked her what she was exactly apologizing for, and she told me that she was just sorry for threatening me about giving my baby a Pakistani name. She continued to tell me that it was wrong of her to do that, and that she was deeply disappointed with her actions. She also apologized for not embracing my culture. I was so happy to finally receive such an apology, and our food and drinks arrived, and we continued with the conversation. She explained to me that it's always been hard for her to understand other cultures because of the background that she has. She continued to explain that all she's ever known is British culture, which was so close-minded of her, especially because back when she was a nurse, she had colleagues of different cultures, and she promised me that she would work on knowing and understanding my culture more. I then told her that I would really appreciate that, and she smiled at me and I smiled back. She then proceeded to tell me that she wanted to work on our relationship. She continued to tell me that she would love for us to be close, and she admitted that it was wrong of her to favor one daughter-in-law just because of cultural differences. I was happy to hear this, and warmed my heart to hear my mother-in-law admitting her mistakes and trying to fix them. I was also proud of the fact that she was also taking accountability for her actions, which was something that she hardly ever did. She lastly told me that she wanted to have a close relationship and bond with her granddaughter once she was born, especially because this would be her first grandkid. She then frowned and told me that she did not understand what was taking my brother-in-law and sister-in-law so long to have a baby, since they've gotten married first and were older than me and my husband. I knew the reason behind my in-laws not having a baby, and I completely understood why they had not told my mother-in-law. The reason why my in-laws don't have a baby yet because my brother-in-law has fertility issues and he's embarrassed to mention or even talk about it, which was sad, because with such sensitive matters you really need your family for. However, I respected their decision of not telling anyone else except for me and my husband. My mother-in-law and I finished up with our lunch and then went our separate ways. Things have been going really well between us, and our relationship has improved a lot. She would check up on me and the baby every day, and we would go out for brunch and lunch dates, and she was even helping me decorate the baby's nursery. A few weeks have passed since our lunch date, and I was in my 3rd trimester. My mother-in-law and I were busy with the baby's nursery, and she was telling me about her family tree, and it was oh so interesting. She then confided in me that she wished that she could have a daughter. I asked her why, because she has 2 amazing sons, and she told me that she's always wanted a mini version of her. Which, yeah, I do understand that. She also told me that she would have named her daughter Abby. I told her that's a beautiful name, and she told me that it's been her great-grandmother's name. She looked over at me and then proceeded to ask if I could at least consider the name Abby for my daughter. I hesitated at first because I loved how much our relationship had grown over the last few weeks, and I did not want to go, south. So I told her that I would consider it. She jumped with joy and hugged me, and she told me that I've made her the happiest woman alive, which confused me because it wasn't like I had agreed to name my daughter Abby. I had just told her that I would consider, but maybe that was all that she wanted. We finished up decorating, and my mother-in-law offered to cook dinner. During dinner with my husband and mother-in-law, she kept bringing up the fact that I promised that I would consider the name Abby. My husband kept looking over at me, and I was shocked that my mother-in-law had used the word promise because I definitely had not promised, but I decided to just ignore it. Maybe she was just super excited about the possibility. Once she had left, my husband asked me what the hell was his mother talking about. So I explained everything to him. I also admitted that I had only agreed to consider it to please her. My husband shook his head and told me that I should not feel the need to please his mother, and that I should not agree to things just because I'm afraid of the things that could go back on, how they used to be. I told him it's all right. He reminded me that we've agreed that we would give our daughter a Pakistani name to honor my late parents. I'd almost forgotten about that because I've been so caught up trying to make sure I remained in my mother-in-law's good graces. I thanked my husband for reminding me about that. He kissed my forehead and assured me that my mother-in-law would not change her attitude. If I decided not to use the name Abby, I smiled at him and agreed with him. I mean, me and my mother-in-law were in a really good place with our relationship, and I truly believe that nothing would change that, but I think y'all have to wait to the next update because I also don't know how things will turn out this time. Update number 2. Hey guys, so it's been a few weeks since my last post and the last time I saw my mother-in-law. I was 8 months pregnant and my due date was rapidly approaching. My mother-in-law offered to throw me a baby shower, which I was super excited about. I was getting ready with Liliana and Madison. Madison told me that my mother-in-law had bought me an outfit. I looked at the outfit and it just wasn't me. It was a tight, bright pink dress, and I told Madison that I was not comfortable with wearing such a dress. She told me that she understood and that I should not feel pressured to wear it. After we were done getting dressed, Liliana noticed that the dress had come with a sash. She picked it up and looked at it, and she asked me if I had decided to change the name that my husband and I picked out. Everyone knew that we had finally decided on a name, but we had also decided that we would keep it a secret. I asked her, why was she asking? Well, she lifted up the sash, and on it was written Abby's mommy. I was gobsmacked and confused. Why had she written that on the sash, when I had only told her we would consider it? Madison and Liliana could tell that I was oh so confused, and Madison suggested that maybe our in-law had a moment of weakness and excitement, and she accidentally got such printed on the sash. I hesitantly nodded my head in agreement with Madison and said that my mother-in-law had probably made a mistake. Liliana shook her head in disagreement and told us that she had a bad feeling about the baby shower. I snapped at her and told her to stop being negative. She apologized, but I could tell that she genuinely believed what she had just said. So, we headed over to my mother-in-law's house, and I was shocked by what I found. The decor was beautiful, with everything looking beautiful, but the name Abby was written everywhere. There was a huge board that said, "Welcome to Baby Abby's celebration." I could not believe what I was seeing. What made matters worse was that none of the people I've asked to invite were here. The room was full of my husband's female family members and my mother-in-law's friends. I knew Liliana wanted to say something, but she decided to bite her tongue, just to protect my feelings because she knew how emotional and hormonal I could get. My mother-in-law walked over to us with two of my husband's aunts. She looked at my outfit with a disgusted look and shook her head. I was wearing one of my traditional Pakistani outfits, which looked beautiful on me, I'll add. However, my mother-in-law was not very impressed. She proceeded to ask me if I liked the setup. I told her that everything was beautiful, and she said obviously it's beautiful. I asked her why she had written the name Abby everywhere, and before my mother-in-law could respond, one of the aunts congratulated me and told me that I've picked such a beautiful name. I thanked her, but told her that my husband and I have not told anybody the name that we've picked. Well, the aunt looked at me confused and proceeds to tell me that my mother-in-law has told everyone that we've decided on the name, and, well, it's Abby. I looked over at my mother-in-law, who was frowning, and I told the aunt that we have not chosen the name Abby. My mother-in-law rolls her eyes and she starts screaming. She yelled that I was ungrateful, a little cow who did not appreciate anything. Liliana told my mother-in-law to shut up. My mom-in-law continued to yell that I was so ungrateful that I did not have any sense of fashion. She mentioned how she had spent thousands of dollars on the dress that she had chosen for me to wear at the baby shower, yet I decided to wear my old-fashioned ugly rug. My heart shattered when she uttered those words, and Madison told my mother-in-law that she was being mean and rude and that she should stop. My mother-in-law just rolls her eyes and yells at Madison to stay out of this. Everybody was looking at us, and I felt so embarrassed and hurt. My mother-in-law looked at me with a death stare. She then proceeded to threaten by telling me that if I did not name my child Abby, or at least name my child with a British name, she would tell the whole family to treat me and the baby like outcasts, and she had threatened me earlier. Everybody looked at my mother-in-law in shock and confusion. She also told me that she would not accept a grandchild with a Pakistani name. And after she said that, I just rushed out of the house and to my car. Madison and Liliana followed me. I got inside the car and I broke down in tears. They tried their best to comfort me, but my heart was completely broken. I could not believe that my mother-in-law had just embarrassed me like that at my own baby shower. I was in utter disbelief. How could she do that to me? I thought we had agreed to start over and fix our relationship, but that all just felt like it's been nothing more than a lie. A complete lie. The stunt that she had just pulled just reminded me of all the times that she mocked and embarrassed me at the family functions and events. And now she had embarrassed me at my own baby shower? I eventually calmed down and Liliana drove me home while Madison had to stay behind because my brother-in-law was going to fetch her from my mother-in-law's house. I was quiet the whole ride home, and once we got home, she decides to leave so that she could give me and my husband a bit of space. So, I broke down in tears again. While I explained what happened at my baby shower to my husband, and he was livid with anger and was completely disgusted with my mother-in-law's actions. He wanted to go confront her, but I told him to leave it for now and that I just needed him right now. I wasn't going to let my mother-in-law get away with it. She's been doing this for far too long, and I was damn tired of always tolerating it. I was going to get revenge, and nothing was going to stop me or get in my way. I was definitely going to teach her a lesson. Update number 3. Hey guys, 3 months have passed since that awful so-called baby shower. I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl last month, so things have been pretty hectic. My mother-in-law has not come to see our daughter and hasn't even bothered to ask if we need any help. Madison and my brother-in-law have been helping us out a lot, and also Liliana. Besides them, no one's seen my daughter, and we have not announced her name. We decided that we were going to introduce her to everybody at her christening party and announce her name there. Doing it this way was also part of my revenge plan. So, it was finally the day of my daughter's christening party, and we were super excited. The party was taking place at our house, which Liana and Madison had beautifully decorated. Everybody was at the church. My father-in-law immediately rushed over to us with a huge smile on his face. He asked if he could hold the baby, and I nodded my head. He was so happy to finally meet her, and my mother-in-law eventually walked over to us and greeted us, and we greeted back. She asked what our daughter's name was, and we ignored her. She kept on asking, but we continued ignoring her until the christening service finally commenced. It was a beautiful service. We also announced our daughter's name at the church, and we had decided on the name Sanya, which meant praiseworthy, and yes, it was a Pakistani name. I could see that my mother-in-law's face was fuming with anger and disgust, but I didn't care. Seeing her angry and disappointed was the perfect revenge for me. Everybody was now at our home, mingling and eating, and we had all gone out for our precious daughter. My mother-in-law immediately rushes over to us fuming. She pushes me aside and demands I explain the nonsense name I've given her grandbaby. Luckily, I was holding my daughter. Otherwise, I would have slapped the boots off this ungrateful old woman. My husband asked my mother-in-law what the hell did she think she was doing. So, my mother-in-law glared at him and asked him why the hell he had agreed to name her granddaughter such a ridiculous name. He rolled his eyes at her and told her that the only ridiculous thing here was her, and she told him that she was disappointed in him and was disgusted by his actions. I could not believe that she was actually saying this. She pointed her finger at me and told me that I was good for nothing, and I was a brat, and that from now on my daughter and I would be outcast. She told me that no one in the family would accept me and my daughter with such a name. My father-in-law walked over to us and asked my mother-in-law what the hell she's doing. He also asked her to stop talking about such rubbish. My mother-in-law looked at him and asked him if he did not think that the name we had chosen was awful. My father-in-law shook his head and told her that the name we had chosen was absolutely beautiful. He loved it. He also added that it was such a beautiful name for an even more beautiful little girl. I smiled at him. My mother-in-law proceeded to say that we were the only ones who thought the name Sanya was beautiful. One of my husband's aunts told my mother that everything and everyone thought Sanya was beautiful and that they loved it. One of the uncles even mentioned that it's a very unique name. My mother-in-law rolls her eyes and tells everyone that we're crazy, and she would not stand for this nonsense. She looked at me with disgust and told me that I was polluting her family, and that I was poisoning her family tree. Well, Liana yelled at my mother-in-law that she's clearly just being racist. My mother-in-law yelled for her to shut up, and my mother-in-law proceeded to say that she would never accept or acknowledge our daughter if she kept the name Sanya. She then admitted that the only reason she had gone to my appointment with me and had gotten close to me was that she could try to get me to change the name before the baby was born. She told me that she thought she had won when I promised to consider the name Abby, but clearly she had been wrong. I told her that I had never promised that, and I had told her that I would think about it, and once I said that, she lost her temper. She yelled and said that she wished that people like me could be banned from entering this beautiful country because we were destroying it. Everybody gasped in shock. And, well, once she said that, my father-in-law shook his head and told her that he was disgusted with her behavior and could not believe that she actually had just said that. My husband told her that she has to leave right now, and if she does not want to leave, well, we're going to end up calling the police. So she goes to ask my husband if he was really going to kick her out, and my husband just goes and says, yeah, that he was indeed kicking her out, and that he never wanted to see her again. My mother-in-law asked him if he was really choosing me over his own blood. My husband told her that she was no longer his mom, because no mother of his would be so racist and close-minded. My mother-in-law refused to leave, so my husband ended up calling the police. They arrived in about 10 minutes and escorted her out. She was screaming and cursing while they escorted her, and she screamed that I've used voodoo on her family and that this is why they were going against her and supporting me instead. She was really putting up a fight while she was being escorted out, and the police ended up having to use handcuffs. The party continued, and you know what? It was pretty peaceful and pretty fun. So, it clearly showed that my mother-in-law was the Debbie Downer at all the family functions and events, because this was the first family event I actually enjoyed and liked and loved. Everybody wanted to hold and see our daughter, which made me super happy. I was grateful that they've chosen to be on my and my husband's side, instead of my crazy mother-in-law's side. Final update. A couple of months have passed, and our daughter has grown so much. She looked exactly like my mother, which warmed my heart, and a few things have changed since the day of Sonia's christening. My father-in-law moved in with us. He helps us a lot with the baby, and he and my mother-in-law are divorcing. He told us that he could not remain in a marriage with such an evil racist woman, and since the house where they live is a generational home and belongs to my mother-in-law, he asked if he could stay with us until he gets his own place. On a totally different note, I thought I would share that Madison and my brother-in-law are expecting twins. Everyone's super excited and happy for them. However, everyone's decided to cut my mother-in-law off. She's no longer invited to family functions or events, and no one feels comfortable around her, and nobody wants to be around her, period. She's tried countless times to reach out and apologize to me, but I've refused to accept it. Yes, I've forgiven her, but I've only forgave her for my own peace and sanity. I want absolutely nothing to do with that old woman, and I didn't want Sonia anywhere near her. She's tried to talk to my husband, but he's blocked her. Everywhere. He really meant it when he told her that he wanted nothing to do with her, and she must be really lonely, though. But that's what she gets for her disgusting behavior. It just shows that disgusting actions do have consequences. Well, even though my revenge plan was simple, it still made a big impact, and it revealed my mother-in-law's evil heart, and it also revealed how truly racist that she is. I hope that one day she realizes how wrong and disgusting her actions were. Otherwise, she'll never get to see her grandchildren grow up. Thank you, everybody, for reading and all your comments. So, this is a story that's a little different from the average mother-in-law story that we see, because this time, the son that was involved, he's not dealing with it. He's cut contact with his mom, and he says, if you can't, stop being the way that you're being, I don't want to be any part of this. And also, it looks like the family is definitely on the side of OP and OP's husband, and not even looking at taking mother-in-law's side. It seems like they're sick of her shenanigans. I do want to know from you guys what you thought about this story, and if you were in OP's position, do you think you would have left a long time ago and not even dealt with this silliness? Or do you think if you leave, you're going to let mother-in-law win? Drop your comments down below, guys. I would love to discuss this in the comment section. If you guys are new to the channel, I want to welcome you. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day, and to be a part of these daily readings, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel. So consider doing that, guys. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.